The white dress, the diamond rings, the bouquet of flowers. Where do these traditions come from? Today, seeing a bride in white is the most normal thing in the world. But before 1841, the favourite colour for a wedding dress was bright, colourful, and, most importantly, reusable for everyday life. Back then, white was only an option if the bride's family was wealthy enough to afford the cleaning of such a delicate garment. But everything changed when Queen Victoria, at just 20 years old, decided to wear a completely white dress for her wedding to Prince Albert. Although today we associate white with purity, at that time, the choice had nothing to do with morality. It was simply the best colour to highlight the fine lace of the dress. And like any influencer of her time, Victoria set the trend. From then on, white became synonymous with weddings and exclusivity. Only the bride and her bridesmaids could wear this colour, a custom that still prevails today. Let's talk about the bouquet. For many brides, the perfect dress is the #1 priority in wedding planning. But in medieval Europe, wedding attire was a much messier affair. Wedding dresses were single-use, but not for fashion reasons. In a rather violent tradition, female guests would chase the bride and tear her dress to shreds. The reason? It was believed that pieces of the dress brought good luck and aided fertility. To prevent the poor bride from ending up in tatters, throwing the bouquet became a distraction, allowing her to escape unharmed. Eventually, as dresses became more elaborate and expensive, the tradition of tearing them apart faded away. But where does the idea of brides carrying flowers come from? During the Middle Ages, bouquets were not elegant floral arrangements. Instead, they were combinations of strong-smelling herbs and spices, supposedly to ward off disease, bad luck, and even evil spirits. As if that wasn't enough, some of these herbs were consumed by the newlyweds during the reception to increase their sexual desire. But Queen Victoria, yes, her again, popularised the use of small bouquets of flowers surrounded by moss and orange blossoms, making it the aesthetically preferred option. Now let's talk about bridesmaids. Being a bride-to-be in ancient Rome or feudal China was no easy task. Brides had to travel long distances to reach the groom's town, making them an easy target for robbers or rival suitors who wanted to stop the wedding. To protect them, a group of bridesmaids dressed identically would accompany the bride to confuse any potential attackers. Over time, this became law. In ancient Rome, if the wedding witnesses were not dressed alike, the marriage could be deemed invalid. Beyond the legal aspect, it was also believed that dressing similarly helped ward off evil spirits that might harm the newlyweds. Now let's discuss the famous moment when the father walks the bride down the aisle. Although today it seems like an emotional gesture, its origins are far less romantic. In societies where arranged marriages were common, the father's role was crucial. According to historian Susan Waggoner, this custom originated in times when the father's presence ensured that the groom wouldn't back out at the last moment. Speaking of curious traditions, let's talk about the bridal shower. This custom originated in the Netherlands in the 16th century as a way to bypass the dowry system. When a family couldn't or didn't want to pay a dowry, friends and relatives would gather to give gifts and money to the bride. When Americans adopted the tradition, upper-class women turned it into an excuse to drink, gossip, and exchange presents. The name shower comes from the custom of placing gifts in an umbrella, which was then opened over the bride, literally showering her with presents. Now, the veil. Although its exact origin is debated, many historians believe it dates back to ancient Rome. Brides wore a veil to protect themselves from evil spirits trying to steal their happiness. Once the ceremony was over, the groom could lift the veil, symbolising that the couple had triumphed over any curse. Another theory suggests that the veil was meant to prevent the groom from seeing his future wife before the wedding, particularly in arranged marriages, to avoid him changing his mind. Speaking of engagements, where did the idea of engagement rings come from? In ancient Rome, marriage was seen as a business contract, and the ring was a way to mark a woman as the property of her future husband. Women were given 2 rings, one made of iron for domestic use, and another of gold for public occasions. Diamond rings didn't become popular until 1947, when the De Beers Company launched its iconic "A Diamond is Forever" campaign. Finally, the bachelor party. This custom has existed for centuries. In the past, the groom's friends would organise a wild party, which became a pact of silence. What happened at the bachelor party stayed at the bachelor party. For a long time, this was exclusive to men. But with the sexual revolution of the 1960s, women also adopted the tradition. And to wrap things up, carrying the bride. You've probably seen countless times how grooms carry their brides across the threshold of their new home. This custom also dates back to the Roman Empire, where soldiers would abduct women and force them into marriage. Although the origin is somewhat dark, today we can give it a more symbolic meaning. Weddings are full of traditions with unexpected histories. Which of these customs surprised you the most?